Walk into any pharmacy anywhere on the planet, and you'll see shelves full of birth control pills, condoms, all kinds of accessible contraception that lets people plan their families easily. Have you ever stopped to wonder, what did human beings do thousands of years before any of this modern medical tech existed? A huge global misconception I see everywhere, from Hollywood period dramas to Asian historical shows, is that all ancient societies only cared about having as many kids as possible and never bothered with birth control. That couldn't be further from the truth. 4,000 years ago, ancient Egyptian scribes already wrote complete, detailed contraceptive recipes onto papyrus scrolls. Every major civilization across Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas figured out their own ways to avoid unintended pregnancy. Some rely on surprisingly clever natural chemistry, others are shockingly dangerous. Today we're doing a fully global cross-civilization deep dive covering every major ancient culture's documented birth control methods, all backed by translated primary sources and modern scientific research. Let's start by busting 3 massive myths spread by TV and film all over the world. First up, the idea that wearing musk permanently stops women from conceiving. Here's a critical point most shows skip. Every traditional medical text from China, Greece, and Egypt only records musk as a mild herb that temporarily shifts menstrual cycles. There's zero historical proof it causes permanent infertility. That plot device was invented for fictional drama, not real history. Second myth, post-sex douching or standing on your head prevents pregnancy. Sperm travels into the uterus far too quickly for simple rinsing to work. Every ancient physician who tested this method marked it as ineffective. Third, lots of channels frame all ancient contraception as random superstitious nonsense, but tons of these old recipes use natural acidic plant compounds that modern labs confirm have mild spermicide properties. Most creators only cover European ancient history, but we're starting where humanity's oldest written contraception records live, ancient Egypt. And their most famous recipe is way less random than it sounds. The Kahun Papyrus, dated 1850 BCE, is the world's oldest surviving gynecological document, and it holds the first recorded vaginal pessary recipe, crocodile dung mixed with raw honey. It sounds absurd at first glance, but let's break down the actual science modern botanists have confirmed. Decomposed crocodile dung creates an acidic environment that drastically slows sperm movement, while thick honey physically blocks the cervix to create a barrier. The only obvious downside? The odor made it extremely unpopular for regular use. A far more practical version appears in the 1550 BCE, Eber's papyrus, wool bundles soaked in fermented acacia sap. Fermentation produces natural lactic acid, a weak but functional spermicide, making this one of the most reliable ancient barrier chemical mixes we have records for. Egyptians also used pomegranate wax tampons, since pomegranate rind contains natural plant estrogen that can disrupt ovulation cycles for short periods. Upper-class Egyptian women widely used early linen wrap barriers too. Moving across the Mediterranean to ancient Greece and Rome, where early systematic medicine built structured contraceptive practices backed by written physician records. Soranus of Ephesus, the most respected gynecologist of the Roman era, documented wild carrot seed as an oral contraceptive. Modern phytology studies across Europe and North America confirm this plant contains compounds that interfere with embryo implantation, one of the few ancient oral methods with measurable biological effect. Greek doctors recommended olive or cedar oil applied to the cervix to create a slippery barrier that blocks sperm flow. Sea sponges soaked in wine or vinegar were the most common daily contraceptive tool for Roman women, affordable and reusable for most social classes. All these translated ancient medical manuscripts and modern lab analyses rarely get compiled in a single video. Hit the save button so you can come back to this full global breakdown anytime you want. Here's a wild cross-continental parallel no other channel covers. Both Mediterranean and ancient Chinese communities relied on plant oil, physical barriers, just using native vegetation unique to their regional ecosystems. Now shifting to ancient China, where contraceptive access split sharply along social class lines. The Mawangdui silk manuscripts, our oldest surviving Chinese gynecology text, record the ancient misunderstanding of the safe period. They believed women couldn't conceive right after menstruation, which directly contradicts modern ovulation science, making that method completely useless for anyone who relied on it. Common folk used fragrant Lysimachia herbs, recorded in the Compendium of Materia Medica, to temporarily halt menstrual cycles with long-term consumption. Far more dangerous were homemade mercury and mineral wine mixtures. These would pause periods short-term, but permanently damage kidneys and reproductive organs, often causing lifelong infertility or fatal organ failure. Wealthier women and sex workers used oil-coated fish bladders or woven silk cloth as physical barriers, but these materials were far too expensive for ordinary peasant families to afford regularly. Let's expand our global lens further to South Asia, the Middle East, and medieval Europe. Ancient Ayurvedic texts from India documented acidic plant pessaries made from tree resin and fermented fruit, following nearly identical spermicide logic as Egyptian recipes. Jewish rabbinic writings in the Talmud reference wool contraceptive sponges for women. Once syphilis spread widely across medieval Europe, sheep intestine sheaths gained popularity, though they were originally designed to stop disease transmission, not prevent pregnancy. Most poor European women still relied on useless, superstitious charms and painful, harsh herb douches with no proven contraceptive effect. We can't skip pre-Columbian indigenous civilizations of the Americas, a section almost every Western history YouTuber completely ignores. Aztec women used agave fiber bundles mixed with wood ash, which creates an acidic environment to slow sperm. Multiple anthropology field studies of North American indigenous tribes record generations of women passing down native herbal blends that temporarily suppress ovulation, harvested from local wild flora unique to their territories. These traditions were almost lost after European colonization, making them a hugely underrepresented piece of global contraception history. Now let's step back and look at a devastating shared pattern across every single ancient culture we've covered. No matter if we're talking Egyptian farmers, Roman citizens, Chinese peasants, or Aztec communities, the full burden of contraception always landed on women. All the painful pessaries, toxic herbal drinks, uncomfortable barrier cloths, permanent organ damage risks fell to females. Male contraceptive options were limited almost entirely to withdrawal and rare animal intestine sheaths. The gender imbalance of reproductive risk is a universal story across all human pre-industrial societies. When you zoom out and see the full global picture, it's clear ancient humans weren't ignorant about avoiding unplanned pregnancy at all. Women on every continent tested thousands of plant and mineral mixtures as a pure survival tactic. Endless childbirth meant starvation, crushing tax burdens, and sky-high infant mortality rates. Compared to the risky, unequal, ancient solutions people were forced to rely on for millennia, modern worldwide access to safe, low-harm contraception for all genders marks an enormous leap forward for human bodily autonomy and gender equity across every nation. Drop a comment down below. What fake ancient birth control trick have you seen in movies or shows from your home country? I'll jump in to fact-check all your wild historical myths. If you loved this unbiased global civilization breakdown, hit subscribe for more cross-cultural human history deep dives.